So on top of so many different things that are now happening inside of the economy right now, one of the biggest issues that have now actually continued to rise and is now actually getting even worse is about the situation with our unemployment right now and about layoffs. Long story short is that it was recently announced that many companies are now starting to another wave of unemployment and layoffs once again, with expected about many major tech companies now going to be laying off about several tens of thousands of workers. So this is actually very massively breaking news, because if you are someone that follows the job market, it means that for a lot of us, our jobs are going to potentially be impacted. What's going to be even more drastic is the fact that many of these jobs even come from the tech sector, which means that they were essentially jobs that at one point was believed to be very safe and stable for our country, now is also being impacted as well. So in today's video, what I really want to talk about is really about the unemployment situation. I want to talk about the significance of what this means for us, how this is going to impact the economy, and then what this actually means for us, because at the end of the day, if you are someone that's employed, then this is going to impact the job market. If you are someone that's looking for a job, then this is going to be very impactful, because it means it's going to be relatively difficult to find a new job, and what this means for us and what we have to do to try our best to protect ourselves during these difficult times like right now. So with that being said, let's just get this video started. But as always, real fast before we begin, if you guys enjoy videos like this, to share support, remember to smash the like button, or you can watch to the end to decide, but it is greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos, and as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, or maybe your current job situation about, or honestly just really anything. So with that being said, let's get this video rolling and started. So maybe to start by giving a little bit of a background story to really get the context of where we stand right now. Back in 2008 and 2009, it was estimated that about 65,000 people lost their jobs in each of those years. So 65,000 in 2008, 65,000 in 2009, totaling about 130,000 people in general. Right now, currently at this time, we are now officially at a count where about 150,000 workers have already lost their jobs since the start of this recession, or since the start of these late waves of layoffs around the beginning of last year. So this is very particularly impactful. Now, it is important to maybe notice is that there are several differences. For example, many of these companies that we're talking about overhired, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But in other words, is that many of the companies that are doing these layoffs, they are much bigger today than they were about 10 years ago, which means that they physically have more employees to be able to lay off. Because, you know, it's like if you're in a company with 1,000 people, you can't really lay off 2,000 workers because you don't have 2,000. But if you are in a company with 50,000 people, you absolutely can lay off 10,000 people. And that's sort of the situation right now. It was reported that Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, three of the biggest tech companies, part of FANG, F-A, you guys know the FANG stocks if you guys, follow that. But they in total laid off they're going to be laying off very soon, another 40,000 workers. Just this month alone, Amazon announced that they were going to be laying off 18,000 workers. Microsoft, it's going to be 10,000 workers. And Google is going to be about 12,000 workers. And the real reasoning to why they're currently doing what they're doing is just because they there are many reasons. There's many reasons. But of the particular reasons, it was really just noted because many of them believe that they had officially overhired during the pandemic when everyone was staying home inside. The tech industry at that time period was blooming. But what a massive change of pace, because as soon as they started to reopen the economy, now several of these tech companies that were able to take advantage of the situation, sadly, are now actually going back to struggling, or just they're not struggling per se. Some of them are not struggling, but they're just not performing at the peak and prime that they once were doing at the height of the pandemic, which means that they don't have room or don't need to hire or have so many different workers around. And added to the fact of everything now happening in the stock market, which is probably the second reason why things are happening right now, because many people, they have their net worth tied into stocks, and if stocks are not doing well, then it means that businesses often might not be doing well, because it means that they also don't have as much money to work with, because for a lot lot of companies, they use stock options as a way to raise and fund money. But if they don't have that money, then it means that they're also going to now be taking a hit to their income and their net worth. So a combination of a little bit of everything, from just overhiring to the stock market to just the growing change in the marketplace of everything that's happening, this is what's now impacting and leading to so many of these massive waves of layoffs that's happening right now. And then the actual other big thing that we didn't really mention yet is really about the foresight of where many CEOs see our economy going. The bottom line about this, what you have to know is that right now at this current time period, many CEOs do not have very particularly bright or positive foresights. If anything, they're actually predicting that the economy is going to get even worse. So why this is important is that because if you are someone that believes the economy is going to be getting worse, it's not going to necessarily be the time to make massive developments. It's going to be the time to protect yourself. And I think that because of that reason, the biggest idea is that because of what's happening right now, many CEOs are also doing massive layoffs, not because their company has been taking a hit yet, but in preparation for when it does, if it really does end up going through, because that's the foresight and belief right now. In other words, is that they're just trying to make moves prematurely because they want to kind of prepare in the case that the layoffs really do happen. They want to be able to save money. And the sooner they do these layoffs, the sooner or the more money they can potentially save, because now they don't have to pay for as many workers, and that's going to help with their expenses. It's kind of sad when you think about it, what's happening, but it is just the reality of what's happening right now. So what is the significance about what this really means for us is that the biggest idea is that if you are someone that's currently employed, then it's probably time to be very protective about your jobs, because many, and we're talking about tens of thousands of people, are not just going to, but they've actually already lost their jobs, and another several tens of thousands of workers are expected to lose their jobs even soon. We are now in about the second/third wave of layoffs, and it's expected that going forward into the third and fourth wave, there's going to be even more layoffs that are going to be coming in the future. So if you are someone that's currently employed, then maybe, there's reasons to be grateful. Maybe, that's some positive news right there. But the most important thing is just to be very protective of your job. Know that this might not be the time to quiet quit. We did make a couple videos where we talked a lot about the quiet quitting movement. We're not going to talk as much about it in today's video. There's videos about it in the past. I'll link one in the end. You can watch it at the very end at the bottom of the end screen. You can click it to watch. I highly recommend checking that out. But it talks a lot about the quiet quitting movement. And so the biggest change is that ever since that video was made, there were a lot of people that were quiet quitting. And now it might be time to be basically someone that's actually trying to protect your job and stay as much as possible so you don't actually end up quiet quitting. Unless you have a very strong financial situation where you have a very massive amount of savings, maybe you can look at that. But the statistic is that more than half of the people in our country actually have less than $1,000 saved up at any given time. So for more than half of this country, this is definitely the time, not the time to be taking such massive risks, and is the time to be very protective, like just mentioned. Now, if you are someone that's currently not employed, then the sad news is obviously, we've lost our jobs. It might be time to get back onto unemployment again. Definitely consider doing that. I made a bunch of videos talking about surviving unemployment, so highly recommend checking that out. There's a playlist actually of videos that talk about that. But the big idea is just to know that if you're currently struggling to find a job, it's just that millions, and I really do mean millions, are in the same exact shoes. I can speak from a personal anecdote, and this is something that I don't think a lot of other videos are going to be talking about, which is that in my particular industry, I work in so most of you guys may or may not know, but outside of this, I work in the events and the film industry. So I do a lot of film, I do a lot of event work and all that stuff. So my industry have even been impacted because right now they are also struggling too. So the big idea is that you can only imagine, if the tech industry is going through difficulties right now, how other industries, including my own industry, is currently now faring off. So it's to really understand that if you are struggling right now going through that situation, that millions and millions of people are with you. And then it's understandable why. It's difficult and it's sad what's happening, but it's understandable. And because it's just happening to so many people right now and expect it to happen to even more people going forward. But what can we expect going forward from here is that in the future, we just have to see how the unemployment situation plays. Wait, there's like sirens going on. We're gonna take a minute to pause the sirens. So going back is that what is the prediction right now that many people have is that a lot of people predict that the economy is just going to get even worse from here. While it is true that we've kind of already started to have certain points of pivoting, so as you guys know about the Fed pivot that many channels are talking about right now, the biggest idea is that while it is true that the Fed pivot is expected to come very soon, we don't know what's actually going to physically happen because things can change at any moment. That's one of the biggest things. And the other big thing is that even if the Fed pivot was to happen very soon, the big idea is that it still takes a couple of months for everything in the economy to adjust. Businesses, I know for a fact, certainly are not doing as well. Layoffs are still continuing. It's expected to continue even more. And as expenses with the inflation, and that's something we haven't even mentioned about and touched on yet, with inflation skyrocketing right now, it also means that the expenses to run businesses are also going to go up as well, making it so that businesses are going to be struggling even more now because of what's happening. But of course, all of this stuff in terms of what actually physically happens, we're going to have to see how the Fed, not just about what ends up, but how the Fed ends up dealing with this situation, what actually physically ends up happening, what they decide, and how this ultimately impacts everything going on in the job and the labor market. But of course, all of this stuff, we're going to have to see in one of the future episodes of The Kevin Show. So with that being said, that's pretty much what I really wanted to cover in today's video, so hopefully nothing too crazy. If you guys enjoyed that, by any chance, remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully did to share support, or otherwise feel free to leave a comment because you guys are always welcome to decide for any suggestions, improvements about anything. And as always, feel free to consider subscribing, hitting the bell. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.